I recorded the entire review and had it paused. All right, let's do this again. So, Rings of Power, Episode 8, the season finale, called Alloyed, is out now. And, well, do you want the good news or the bad news? Well, we'll get to that. But first, I do want to say that yes, I am going to be doing sort of a piece by piece. These are the things that I found important. It's not going to be a play by play or anything like that, but there will be spoilers involved. So if you have not watched the episode and you wish to, you might not want to watch this review. But for those of us who have seen it, or for those of us who just don't care, let's move on. As I've said before, I've watched this series sort of two minds, right? I'm a fan of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies. I think they're fantastic, right? And then over here, there's this guy, the guy that has been reading a lot of Tolkien, knows a lot about the world. I'm by no means a guru when it comes to Tolkien, but I know quite a bit. So I'm trying to watch it from two different ways of thinking. And there's sometimes that's difficult, but it was a challenge that I really wanted to meet. Since the beginning, I've been trying to figure out who this show is for, and it's obvious now. This show is for the casual fans. One of the things that I typically do after the episode is I go onto Reddit and see what people are saying, see what people are thinking, things like that, because it helps me contextualize my own thoughts in a lot of cases. And there's a lot of people that really enjoyed this episode, and they have said, I've never read the books. I was just a fan of Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson films. And I guess from that perspective, I can see it. And I mean, that's fine. But there's a lot of people that are upset. And I'm talking about the people that have been reading this stuff for a while. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about some of the good of this episode. And in doing so, I'm going to be talking about sort of the series too, but I'm going to be talking in, particulars about the episode. The cinematography, as always, has been excellent. It's just been beautiful to look at. There's some gorgeous vistas on display here. It's you really can't fault that part of it. I mean, I don't know how much money was spent on that part of it, but wow, it really looks beautiful. And on top of that, I think a lot of the CG in this show has been really well done as well. The sequence between the stranger and the, what are they? Witches, cultists, whatever you want to call them. That whole sequence there was some really cool imagery there. I really enjoyed it. I still don't know who these people are, but I enjoyed that part. And then of course, on top of that, there's the scene, the kind of, I would call it like the dreamland or dream, where whatever's going on, where Halbrand and Galadriel are having their discussion, where it's pretty obvious at this point that yes, Halbrand is Sauron. It's still really, it was whatever, but it looked really cool. I saw many people in the Reddit thread, and even it seemed to be pretty divided between people that are just casual fans and people that are book fans. But a lot of people still are not fans of the Harfoots. And I have to say, this is the first episode where I was actually invested in the Harfoots storyline. Like when I'm sitting there watching it, I'm not sitting there just waiting for the next storyline to present itself. I was actually invested and enjoyed it quite a bit. In a lot of ways, people look at story problems as being acting problems. And in a lot of cases, they're one and the same. But in Rings of Power in particular, whatever problems you may have with the story, the acting has been pretty well done across the board. I don't have any problems with the acting, but there were really two scenes in particular this episode that I was really impressed. One is the scene between Halbrand and Galadriel, where it's obvious now that Halbrand is Sauron. Yay me for calling that one. But anyway, whether you agree with it or not, I think their acting was really good. And then there's a scene with it's a quieter scene with the Queen and Elendil on the boat. I really enjoyed that scene like a lot. Like I really enjoyed it. And what I liked about it is that there's even though it's a quieter scene, there is a lot of a lot going on in their performances, and it was very restrained, and I really appreciated that scene. And one thing that I don't bring up enough about this show is that I think Bear McCreary's work on the score has been fantastic. Now, a lot of people will say, "Well, he's no Howard Shore." I'm okay, but all I'm saying is that I thought his score has been pretty fantastic across the board, all except for, well, we'll get to that. And now let's get into some of the bad, right? And again, we're talking about the season as a whole in some of these, and really this one in particular, the pacing. The pacing of this season has been crazy. Like there are whole episodes where it feels like we're just treading water. But then we get to this episode and it feels like there's so much crammed into it. There's so much going on. The story feels rushed, and I don't understand why that is. Celebrimbor is the forger of the rings, right? He's supposed to be one of the finest smiths ever, and especially of this age. But really, he's supposed to be one of the finest ever. And you're telling me he's never alloyed metals before? He's never combined? What? One of the big ones was, oh my gosh, Galadriel just found out that Halbrand is actually Sauron, but hey, screw it, let's make some rings, like in an afternoon, right? I don't think that the 3 rings of power, the elven rings of power, were created in an afternoon. I just don't understand. I don't understand why that had to be so rushed. And on top of that, what happened to the dwarvish rings, the 7? What happened to the rings of men, the 9 rings? The in the story, those were created first, and the elvish rings were created later. Why make this change? It's just really irritating that Galadriel comes off as so easily manipulated and frankly dumb in some cases. And I don't understand why you would do this to this character. Like, I mean, sure, there's this possible love interest with Sauron. I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand why that has to be there. But there's a lot of things where I'm just like, why would you take this really strong female character and basically dumb her down? It's almost insulting. And that final song, and this is where, the Bear McCreary stuff, it's hard for me to completely blame him because the idea probably came from somewhere, but you take this very famous, this poem basically about, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, all that stuff. And you're going to make it into a song called Where the Shadows Lie, sung by Fiona Apple. Now, look, I've been a fan of some Fiona Apple songs in the past. Seriously, I think she's very talented. Hey, she's talented, okay? But why? Why did this need to happen? Like, it feels like someone at Amazon said, hey, we really like that they ended each Lord of the Rings film with a song. So let's do a song. Do we want to write a new song? No, screw it. Let's use this very famous text from Tolkien and put music behind it. I don't understand. I don't understand why. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, one of the things that I pointed out was that the storyline of Rings of Power, everything is supposed to take place in the Second Age, right? Here's Return of the King, okay? And about the first 2/3 of the book are the actual story of Return of the King. And then the last part of it is the appendices. And in the appendices is where they're drawing a lot of this information from the Second Age. And that little bitty sliver there is how much they had to work with. Okay? So that's what you have to work with. But then you still make changes and additions that aren't there. And you take out things and you're moving things around. I don't understand why you would do this. Like, this has happened many, many times in the history of film, right? They take a book, a very well-loved book, and they make a bunch of changes to it. I don't understand why you would do that. Like, what's the thought process here? It happened in Harry Potter, and it irritated me. Those last four books were kind of butchered, and they added a bunch of stuff that just didn't need to be there. Why do studios keep doing this? I don't understand the thought process. Because what you're doing is you're thinking, maybe they're thinking, oh, it's going to be more entertaining. Oh, we need an action scene here. But then you're pissing off all the people that were fans of the original material. Why would you go that far? Why would you do this? Because the people that have never read it, guess what? They wouldn't know the difference. So what's the thought process there? I was right, okay? I was right about Halbrand being Sauron. But the stranger, I was right about him too. That he's one of the Astari. That he's probably Gandalf, right? Because he says, follow your nose, right? That's something from the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films. They're trying to kind of tie things together. Okay, but here's the problem. Gandalf doesn't come to Middle Earth until like 1,000 years into the Third Age. Why did you feel like you had to do this? Why did you feel like the hobbits had to be there? The Harfoots, right? Are the precursors to the hobbits, but I don't understand why you would make these changes for not a whole lot of payoff. At least from my perspective, right? I don't get it. Now look, I'm not trying to gatekeep Tolkien, like, at all. If you're just a fan of the movies and you enjoyed this season, you know what? I'm really, really happy for you. I'm happy that you enjoyed it. That's always my thing. Even when there's something that comes out that's not my thing. I want, like, the fans of, say, the Twilight movies, right? Or the Twilight books. Big fans of the Twilight books. There were some, look, let's be honest. Some nerdy Twilight fans out there. And you know what? I hope that they enjoyed those movies. I really do. They're not for me, but I hope they enjoyed it. So from that perspective, even though this is something that I'm a huge fan of, I'm also hoping that the casual fans enjoy it too. But I just don't understand why you would make these changes. Could someone explain it to me? Even if you're a huge fan of the way that Rings of Power Season 1, like you're like, hey, this was great. I enjoyed it. It was a little slow maybe, but I enjoyed it. I'm happy for you. But I still got some bad news for you, okay? And that is that the showrunner said the other day, we're 2 years minimum away from season 2. With all this money that Amazon has spent on this series, you're telling me that you didn't think ahead and say, well, you know what? Maybe we should have season 2 ready to go in, say, a year. Or maybe a year and a half. Not 2 years plus. So whatever momentum that they had for this show, from the casuals, from these fans like me that are trying to like it and really want to like it, whatever momentum you had is going to be gone. Because now we have to wait at least 2 years. Now I understand, oh yeah, you moved from New Zealand to England, and that's a whole story. But they're already in production. And you're telling me it's going to take another 2 years? I don't understand that either. But I'm sorry to be the one to break this to you if you hadn't heard this already. So here's the thing. I don't know. I don't know if I can. I'll probably watch season 2. I probably will. When it does come out, when I'm 50, I guess. I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't understand why you wait so long. But I'll probably watch it. I'll probably try to at least try to enjoy it. But look, I don't know. Like I said, there's a part of me, the part of me that's just a fan of those Lord of the Rings movies. I say, you know what? It's pretty fun. It's not bad. It's slow in parts, crazy fast in others, but overall, it's not bad. But then, I've already said it. So look, here's the thing. I would like to hear from you. Let me know what you're thinking about this. Are you happy about the way that Rings of Power Season 1 ended? or are you upset? Tell me what you're thinking. I mean, I'd like to know. So, anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Really enjoyed that. And then there's a smaller, less, I guess,